Hey, everybody, welcome to the Real Deal Fishing Podcast. My name is Kevin.
My name is Mike. How we doing?
And my name is Mike. Chat, chat,
Yeah.
chat.
Something fall out of your ear, Kevin?
Yeah, I just lost an AirPod there. Right as I said welcome, and it fell out of my
I
ear.
saw something go flying.
Yeah. Hey, it wouldn't be right if something didn't go wrong at least once during the podcast. But hey man, how's the life on the frozen tundra out there in Iowa?
Actually, the last couple days we have been melting.
Hmm.
I have enjoyed 40-degree days the last two, yesterday and today. And then one of my team members at work said that we're supposed to slowly go back into the negative numbers again.
Mm.
And then I believe maybe this weekend will warm up again a little bit. So we have high
Other
hopes that however that groundhog works, that it works in our favor because there are several of us that really, really want to fish and not on top of ice. So
Yep.
we are wondering, I believe we get the answer to that tomorrow, whether or not Puxatawny Phil actually will see his shadow and then you said see his shadow and then he goes and
Yeah.
and hides back in his den for 6 more weeks.
Well, if he sees his shadow, then that means that it's a sunny day, and then that means we get 6 more weeks of winter. And if it's a cloudy day, then he won't see a shadow, and that means spring will come early. So we're hoping for a cloudy day in Pennsylvania, which is where
Pennsylvania.
which is where he is. So
Well, I
you
think
know,
we should just relocate this dude to like somewhere
Florida.
where there's lots
No,
of
no,
clouds
not
and
Florida.
stuff.
Yeah, somewhere like Chicago.
We put him in like we put him in like Seattle. We might not ever
Yeah,
see him again.
we might not ever have winter again.
That would just kind of debunk this whole philosophy. Now, is this always correct? Is the other question that I have about
I
this groundhog.
I have
I
no
have to
clue.
doubt it just because I usually play devil's advocate to about anything.
Well, I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day, so the
Yeah.
chances that it's correct, you get a 50-50 shot. So, well, anyway, it's good to see you again. We got Tony Harrison in the Boom Squad joining us in the chat. He said Duluth sounds cold and dreary.
Yeah,
Uh,
I bet it's cold up there a lot. That's way up there.
And we got our Boom Squad in the chat. They can watch this podcast being recorded live, as we're doing it. So, thank you to our Boom Squad for coming over on the Palmetto Cats YouTube channel. This is the Real Deal Fishing Podcast. We do have our own YouTube channel for those of you listening. So, if you want to go over there and watch the podcast, and at the beginning of this podcast, you can see my earphone fall out, and then my ring light went cattywampus. I handle it like a champ, though. If you're listening, you had no clue. But if you're watching, it was blinking on me. I don't know what happened. But anyway, if you want to be a part of the Boom Squad, just come on over there and hit subscribe to the Palmetto Cats YouTube channel and join. Press that join button on a computer. But otherwise, if you want to support the Real Deal Fishing Podcast, go visit www.shoppalmettocats.com. Pick you up some merch. Mike's wearing some merch right now. Let's see
Yes,
it for the
I
people who are watching.
this is not a planned shameless plug. This is
There he
actually pure coincidence.
is.
I actually all weekend had been telling myself, don't do anything cheesy, don't do anything, no greaseball moves to try to promote the podcast. Don't wear the shirt on the podcast, but here I am.
Please promote the podcast. Well, look, I mean, I'm wearing Palmetto Cat shirt, so we got
Yeah.
both of them covered. All we need is Murillo's Family Fishing, and we got the trifecta going there.
Yep.
But yeah, man. So thank you all for listening. Seriously, we appreciate it. The numbers go up ever so slightly every week, and you can look forward to us dropping uh, a podcast every week. And on the YouTube channel, one will publish every week. Now we've caught up. I was publishing one a day from the old ones. and now we're caught up. So, and then on Palmetto Cats, you can watch live and come comment and ask questions during the show live, and that's what you get as part of your membership on that channel. Well, let's get into the show today. Mike, we talked a little bit before the show about a couple of things. Number one is gear being our number one favorite thing to talk about, but you brought up some really cool conversations that you had with a family member about kind of the part of fishing that we kind of take for granted, and or we don't talk about much. And one of those things was about how fishing is kind of like handing a hand me down trait or a hand me down skill. You want to talk about that a little bit and what that discussion was?
We had talked in the past about how we're always thinking about fishing and we're always thinking about gear and all the aspects of fishing. And I decided that I had a great opportunity where I had my brother's children at the table with me, and they have quite an age range. My oldest niece is 20. Oh gosh, now I'm going to get it wrong. I think she's 28.
Hopefully, she
And
doesn't
my
listen to the
youngest
podcast.
niece, yeah, my youngest niece is 8 or 9. So there is a 20, just about a 20-year age span there, the spectrum of his kids. Well, we didn't have all of them at the table, but we had 3 or 4.
Mm.
And so I just presented the whole thing to the group. I told them, "Hey, me and my buddy have a fishing podcast." And first of all, they're like, "You know what a podcast is?" I'm like, "I know. I keep telling everybody this story, and it's really funny."
Mike, this
But
seems to be a
yes,
common sentiment from all your family. They're all
I
surprised that
know
you wouldn't know what a podcast is.
that they're not surprised that I want to talk, and they're not surprised that I find somebody to listen, but they're really surprised. And I tell them, "Hey, Kevin sends me a link. I join. We get it done." I was like, honestly, he handles everything. So my niece Paige, very lovingly, she's like, okay, now I get it. So we continued with the conversation.
I'm sorry,
And
Mike. Like your family doesn't sound too supportive in this. You're painting a dreary picture, my friend.
well, I think that they are supportive. They're just kind of shocked. And that's cool. I like that because that tells me that maybe I am trying to branch out, outside of my own house a little bit, even though I get to do the podcast from right here inside my house. But so I asked them, I said, I was like, when I mention fishing, what's the first thing that you think of? I was like, what hits you? What comes to mind? Well, we went way past the first thing that hits them, but specifically, my niece Paige was very responsive to this topic.
Mhm.
And my brother instantly was like, "You're gonna use this in your podcast, aren't you?" I was like, "Well, absolutely. We're gonna talk about it. It's fishing conversation, and I wanna know how my nieces and nephews feel about it and what they have to say." And what Paige had mentioned right away, the first thing she mentioned was that to her, fishing is the teaching and handing down of knowledge. And the second thing that they had mentioned, and then all the other kids chimed in with the same thing. One word, family. So they're
Mhm.
like, "Hey, it's family time. We go out, we fish." And then they started talking about uh some of us older folks catching big fish. And that's because none of them really have. But we are there trying to get them onto bigger fish.
Mhm.
So yes, it is teaching. It is the handing down of knowledge, and I really thought that that was actually really cool. They
That's
talked about
profound. It's
how
actually profound because I mean, you think
yeah,
about how many examples do people make, about fishing or Mark Twain, you know? You give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man a fish, you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. And I know that quote is not necessarily about fishing, but it is. And the lessons you learn in fishing could translate to other things in life. So I think it's really profound that someone is young as your niece. But now maybe she wasn't thinking that deep
Oh,
that as
I
this
think she
old guy, but
was.
you
I
think she
I
was?
really think
Okay.
she was. I think you hit the nail on the head there because my nephew Jake chimed in, and Jake mentioned that fishing at times is not easy, and
Mm,
sometimes when they're not biting, it's really boring, and you get
amen.
frustrated and you get upset, and that's when a youthful individual will want to just reel the rod up, take the bait out of the water, and just sit there and not fish. And I am maybe not so nice about things sometimes, but I encourage him all the time not to quit. I'm like, don't quit. Give it a shot. Let's see what it can do. Change the position, change
Mm,
try go down the bank a little bit, try a different spot, throw it further, throw it closer, try something different, rather than just sit there and be upset that you're not catching fish and maybe your dad has, because Dan's a good fisherman. And
mm,
for whatever reason, Jake's little brother Quentin, my nephew Quentin, seems to be quite a dynamo also. So
mm.
it's a little frustrating for the older brother to not have the same results as the younger brother, since they do have that nice little sibling rivalry going on.
And you
Um,
see that everywhere though. I mean, you see
yeah.
I mean, most of us, most people. I'm going to make a general statement. I know it doesn't apply to everybody, but most everyone when you ask them, "Hey, how'd you start fishing?" Not a lot of people say, "I just wanted to do it and I picked up a rod and reel and bait and tried it." Now, there are some that did it. We talked to Bex from No Real Loss. She's one of those anomalies that she saw it, she wanted to try it, and so she went out there. But most of us, it's like, oh, my granddad taught me, or my dad taught me, or my uncle,
Mhm.
or my big brother, or something like that. So it's those. That's one of those things some people take for granted. As I get older, I definitely realize how lucky I am to number one, still have my father, and number two, have a father that taught me a valuable life skill and something that obviously is bringing value and joy to my life. So that's an awesome way to start the show, Mike. Awesome way. Now she talked about something else too, right? What else did she say?
She did mention the the constant thought of the battling the big fish,
Ah,
and she
yes.
mentioned that she had not caught a humongous fish herself yet, but she took in great value for the fact that while you're out there fishing, you're away from the city, and yes, we do not live in the biggest city in the world. We don't
Mhm,
live in the fastest paced city in the world, but very much enjoys the quiet settings and taking in nature, listening to the breeze, feeling the breeze, the birds. And she mentioned specifically how when she's sitting there fishing, it's almost as though her breathing that nice air over the lake or over whatever the water
mhm.
is just really soothing and very, very refreshing.
Yeah, you know, I agree with the refreshingness of it too. But I like when you told me that. I like the fact that she talked about the fight of the big fish, and it got me thinking. There's different kinds of fights to fish, and you growing up, catching carp, mostly, yeah, and you kind of described that The carp swims like a what?
Well, I say that they swim like Olympic hero Michael Phelps
Michael Phelps.
because they are fantastic swimmers. Now,
As
maybe
opposed to like, a big catfish who may fight you for, a minute or two and then they kind of just become dead weight mostly.
yeah,
Mhm,
definitely very, very different levels of power and very different swimming styles, I would say,
mhm,
in the species. And I haven't caught a lot of species,
mhm,
but it's something that I realize has definitely had an impact on these kids and their fishing
mhm,
because we can throw out, a night crawler or a small piece of bait or have them throw lures and they may catch a smaller fish and their equipment is probably in the range of like a 4,000 size reel, maybe 10 to 15-pound monofilament, and on a medium action rod. So they're
mhm,
gonna overpower any panfish or a small, hybrid, or something. They're gonna overpower it. A largemouth bass, they're gonna handle that battle nice and easy. But if they happen to hook into a 10 or 15 or 20-pound carp, they're gonna be in for quite a tussle. And this last year, no, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, my nephew Jake caught a 13-pound carp, or maybe it was this
mm.
last year. And I wanna say this past year, my nephew Quentin caught a channel cat that was about 8 pounds, maybe 9 if it was heavy. So they've felt some power and they've experienced some decent success these last few seasons, and they're hooked now.
Yeah. So
They they got it.
that got me thinking though, you start thinking about the different ways and trying to describe to somebody who can't see it in action. Um, Using the power of words and description to describe how a fish fights. That's what that got me thinking of. And you nailed it on the head. It's like the carp is like Michael Phelps. And we all imagine Michael Phelps winning 8 gold medals and swimming like a fish, through the water. He's got power. Um, so we can imagine take what your description and imagine what a carp is gonna, fight like. So then, you move on to like, well, what does a 20-pound catfish fight like? It's kind of to me, it's kind of like a muscle car. It's gonna get you off the line quick. It's gonna get you up to speed. But when it gets up to those top RPMs, something else is gonna like a ninja bike is gonna pass you, or a lighter vehicle, or something like that. More like a dragster. I think a dragster is good drag racing car because you get that nice big adrenaline pump right at the beginning. You get off the line, and then about you know a mile down the road, it's kind of okay. Yeah, I'm done. I'm ready to come in. Do you agree with that, or do you have a
I
better analogy?
I've only netted one 20-pound
Mm,
catfish. It was a flathead, so it was a
mhm.
fantastic
Well,
battle,
yeah, I guess I
fantastic
should say
struggle.
that was a blue cat because
Yeah,
flathead's
and
a
and
totally
that's I've
different
not
story.
experienced that. I've not
I
experienced
got
that, so I want that now,
you.
what you just
Mhm,
said, I want some of that in my life.
mhm,
I thought of the flathead, and I thought of, some of the other larger fish that I battled and lost as kind of like an arm wrestling competition,
mm,
and you have to wear the other one out and then defeat them, and I
mhm.
gotta tell you, I'm not a good arm wrestler.
Well,
So,
I like that analogy because you can look at it as the back and forth,
yeah,
like you're
yeah, a
winning,
a power
and then
struggle.
it realizes that it's hooked, and then all of a sudden, nope, I'm going back down.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Mhm,
that's what I was thinking first of all, and then the the carp is just really different. They swim and try to go further, is what
Mhm,
I'll say. When a carp picks up a bait and then notices that they're hooked,
mhm.
they will they will they will give that initial burst and they will swim. In my experience, some of them have swam as far as 120 yards away
Wow.
before I could turn them. Now, understand, I didn't have a true medium heavy action rod. It was a medium action rod,
Mhm,
and it was only 7 foot tall. So I didn't have any height advantage. I certainly didn't have a power advantage, and I was using 10-pound line. So I
mhm.
didn't have the ability to put too much more stress on the line. I would use a reel that probably would generate no more than, I would say, 17 to 20 pounds of drag, because
Mhm.
I don't want to break my own line just by locking the drag down too tightly. So maybe also too, it's how we were taught to fight them, to let them wear themselves out. But I've also been spooled
Well,
200
you bring up
two
a
hundred
good point.
yards by a carp.
You bring up a good point. Or you kinda segued into a different topic, which, we love doing that here on the
Yeah.
Real Deal Fishing Podcast. But, having the appropriate tackle for what you're fishing for. And
Mhm.
what I think to decide what tackle you want to bring, and tackle includes rod, reel, line, leader, all that stuff, hooks. You have to decide number one, what are you searching for? What are you targeting? In your case, let's say you're going after big carp, big, common carp, 30, 20, 30 pounds. You want something, you're looking for that big one. Then the next thing you have to decide is, well, where am I hunting for these carp at? Okay. And then I think the last thing you have to decide, and I'm sure there's other little things you have to think about, but these are the three main points. The other main point is, what is your goal when you catch these fish? Now, I'll elaborate on that last one and I'll let you go into the other ones. The goal, which, is kind of vague, do you want to eat carp? Do you want to catch and release carp? Do you want to use it for bait? Basically, do you want to keep it or do you want to let it go? And if you want to keep it, how many are you trying to keep? Because that's going to decide, well, I want some heavy stuff. I really don't care about the fight. I just want to get them in, get them on the bank, and get this done because I'm going to use this for bait. So it's not really, I don't want to waste a lot of time on it. Um, if I'm letting it go, that means that, hey, I'm there for the fight. I'm there for the joy of the fish. So I can lighten up my tack a little bit. Now, why don't you talk about like deciding on what tackle to take for a carp, big carp, based on where you're catching them at? What do you have to consider?
I like how you said that. I like how you emphasized based on where you have to where that battle's going to take place.
Right.
This is something that I did not consider, and that's definitely the reason why I failed to catch some fish in the past, because I didn't know where I was fishing well enough. I didn't know what was on the bottom. I didn't know where the bigger snag points might be. I didn't know, and the fish know. They're like, I'm gonna
Right.
go down there by this tree and I'm gonna try to get this this thing out of my mouth. And the this is something that I learned a lot, even in the very first true catfishing guided trips.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't know where I was, so I had to ask. I'm just like, okay, here we are. It looks like there's a whole bunch of timber down here, and we're dropping a bait right down into it.
But
I'm
why
like,
does that
okay,
make any? Why does that matter? Like, how does that decide your tackle?
well, this was much heavier tackle, like you were
Hmm.
saying earlier. We were rigged out with heavier tackle. That's the rod and the line and the leader and the hook. Everything was bigger, and the tactic there was not to let the fish swim back into the snag
Hmm.
points. You
Hmm.
have to start that fight right there, hold your ground, don't don't give don't give that fish any ground going back, towards that timber. And it
Hmm.
was it was really interesting how that was such a teaching point, going back to our initial topic there, because as kids we weren't raised to think that way, because for the most part carp like real flat areas where they can swim around and feed, and those nice flat areas that might maintain and keep that food that they're in search of. I don't really catch carp in, rocky areas. It's very flat, maybe like sandy bottoms or mud bottoms. So when you're fishing those, I don't have that concern. The
Right.
fish is going to go left, the fish is going to go right, the fish is going to go further out, the fish is going to charge towards me, but it's probably not going to get hung up on anything. So I can use
Mhm.
lighter line because I'm not going to need too much abrasion resistance, and I'm
Mhm.
not going to try to put up a heavy fight with the fish as
Mhm.
soon as the hook set has happened. I'm going to allow that fish to swim and then try to control it
You
when I
want it to
feel
swim
it's more,
at
yeah,
that
you
point.
want it to swim itself to let
Yes,
some of that
swim
energy out.
more.
Yeah, swim, get
Well,
tired. I'll wait.
that's
I'll
that's
enjoy
part of
it.
the fight,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
it's really sad because all those times I went live online, that's all I was hoping to do, was
Mhm.
to show everybody how a 10 to 25-pound carp can provide you a fantastic tussle for maybe 10 to 25 minutes. I mean, it's a fantastic, and the stamina, the power that that fish demonstrates
Mhm.
is really truly something, and it's fun. Now, I know you saw that in action right in front of you when you
Mhm.
camped out overnight and Richard Montano came
Yeah, I was
down
gonna say
and
that
caught carp.
that, in this case, where we were fishing, we were all also catfishing. And so we were not in an area where there was wide open, running ground for this carp to go. So every time the carp took drag back out, it was a gamble. So that's
Oh,
another thing. It's like, you know, everything Mike said, obviously we all should agree with. But if you find yourself in a scenario where, the carp is going out or the fish is going out, taking drag, and you're bringing it back in, every time that exchange happens, you're risking losing the fish, especially if you have, brush or rocks or any other kind of structure on the bottom. So that also should be in consideration with your line. That specifically with your line and your leader. But there's one thing you didn't mention that I just want to bring up, and we've talked about this with Tom on the show. Is that opposed to, well, you need to figure out if you're fishing on a boat, fishing on the bank, and so that's going to decide something else about your tackle. It's going to decide how long your rods are.
mhm.
Not that you can't use a 7'6" on the bank. You do it all the time.
Yes, I do.
So you can still get great casting distance, but is it going to be as fun? Are you going to launch it out with the confidence that you would with a longer rod? Um, from the boat, I think it's more important from the boat to get the rod length right than it is from the bank, in my opinion. Now, after I'm done, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't want a 12-foot rod on my boat because I don't have anywhere to put it. I don't have any, when I'm casting, it's going to be in the boat, in the hanging up on something. You know, when I go to rebait, I got to slide that rod down on the deck to get to the hook, or I have to hold it up. Them things aren't light. So I think it's really important on the boat to make sure that your rods are the appropriate length. And most times, unless you're fishing a shallow water situation, which we do a lot on the lake, um, you don't really need casting distance, which is what a long rod is for. So you agree that you know the rod length really matters a lot more on the bank than on the boat.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's the amazing part, and such a value for a boat is that you can set yourself up and pretty much fish just about anywhere so long as you can, maintain your position nice and safely. And I was shocked by it when we went
Mhm.
fishing on a boat this last year because sometimes we would just drop baits straight down.
Mhm.
And I didn't think that you could park a boat basically right on top of a flathead, drop a bait straight down, and that it could happen. Now, for us, it did not, but I'm certain that it happened for several other people
Yeah, it hasn't happened for me either, but
utilizing the same tactic.
maybe this
And
year.
other things that I learned this past year that were just completely different concepts to me was how people discussed how flatheads would stack up
Yeah.
on top of each other. There was
Mhm.
a fantastic live panel discussing flathead catfishing. It was Pontoon Jody's panel,
Yeah.
and Chris
Sounds great.
Flores was in there, and Roger were in there, and they were talking about flatheads and bobcat and oh gosh, I'm gonna forget everybody. Trophy Seeker Outdoors was there, Daryl,
Mhm.
and I learned so much from Daryl and Bobcat that
Mhm.
night. I didn't even expect to, and I'm writing notes down. I'm like, oh, I'm rewinding, trying to just write these ideas down, these concepts,
Mhm.
and like I said, when we went fishing, uh, it- we're talking, and Spencer's like, "There's probably 15 flatheads here." He's like, in this treat area right here. I'm like, "How many?" I thought that it was probably more like, "Hey, I'm the big flathead. Beat it. You go find your own tree." And he's like, "No, they're here." And I'm like, "Wow." I don't know enough about that species.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like that would be the case if you look at how aggressive a flathead is,
Yeah.
you know. But really, I think personally, I think that blue is way more aggressive and territorial, or not territorial, but aggressive.
Oh.
Um, because that just how they hit the rod, how they attack a bait. A blue or a flathead, from what I've seen, most times, they lay an ambush and wait for bait to come to them. Now I know that they hunt a lot, but in the evening, but most times you see people fishing for those, and they throw on the flatheads like you were talking about, and they just get that little pump, that bump of the rod, and then it's on, you know. And so a flat or a blue is like completely opposite. A blue sees your bait, it grabs it and is like, "That's mine, and I'm out of here." And so I think it's odd that they stack up like that, being that they're portrayed as such a territorial fish.
Yeah. And the one that I chase mostly around here are channel catfish.
Mhm.
And while I've only caught a handful of channel cats over 10 pounds, and maybe only another handful over 8 pounds,
Mhm.
the bigger ones, because and I'll say big just because if it takes you two hands to get a hold of something, to me that's plenty big.
Yeah,
You
man.
know, who cares what the scale says?
Mhm.
You know, everything isn't about that number. But these bigger channel cats that these ones you got to wrestle to get your hook back out of them. I have not seen any of our channel cats here hesitate or bite lightly. When those bigger cats that I've caught want something, your rod has a chance of going in the water. So that's why I upgraded myself this past year to the
Upgrade.
to the monster rod holder, the bank rod holder
Yeah.
that he sold at CatCon, and
I
I
got four coming in the mail straight from the factory.
I have a lot of confidence in those, and I was even out there pulling on the line and moving the rod around and trying to get it to have any chance of failure. I don't think there is.
Mm.
That is a well
I can't
designed
wait to get mine.
that is a well designed piece of metal, and I I do believe it might look better if it were green, but I'm just
Well,
throwing
and
that out
I
there.
think I think he's so the manufacturer of these are called Muddy River Rod Holders. His name's
Yes.
Austin Pettigrew is what we're
Yep.
talking about.
Yep.
And he powder coated a whole pallet, like 200 of them, for monster rod holders. And so you can get those at monsterrodholders.com right now. They're fantastic. They look great. They look just like as if monster rod holders powder coated them. But he also sells them to the public uh, raw. And so I think mine are coming raw, and then I
Yep.
can powder coat them or I can spray paint them or whatever color I want. So
Yep.
that's what Mike's talking about. And they have a reinforced uh, bar across horizontal bar across the top, so that you can hammer them into the ground or into the rocks.
They're
Yeah.
fantastic. They work for bait casting rods as well as spinning rods. The Mexicat and I had them out. We were testing them in the face of 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and it did blow the rod around just a little bit, but there was no doubt that those rods were not coming out of there.
Hmm.
So I very much like that product. I look forward to. I gave two to my sister Trish on purpose because I think that that's a fantastic design, exactly what we're looking for, and
Yeah.
again, something that should be available at CatCon. Here
Yep.
we are talking about fishing, talking about equipment, and Kevin brought up a interesting topic, and I can't believe that we've actually touched on so many topics already, but we're going to transition again, Kevin. You
Bloop,
know,
bloop.
this is
Well,
quite a show here.
before we
I feel
transition,
I feel we're having quite
I
a show here.
yeah, but I had one idea I wanted to get out when we were talking about fish fight.
Okay.
And the most impressive fish that I've ever had on the line to fight is a shark. And there's something to be said about a saltwater fish. And I know not a lot of people have had that experience. And I've caught probably my biggest shark's probably about 5 or 6 pounds, which doesn't seem like much. But if you think about a streamline, no, it's probably about 8 or 10 pounds. But if you think about a streamline shark, sand shark, dogfish, whatever you want to call it, man, those things. I took my catfish gear out a couple years ago, right when I started YouTube. My cousin had a center console, and we went out to the reef, which is a really rough ride. But we get out there and we drop the baits down, and we're just fishing with shrimp and squid and things like that. Fishing off the bottom, catching black sea bass, whatever, pinfish, things of that nature. Just having a good time. And I drop it down, and I'm filling with something else. I actually got a video on it, and the rod just goes down, and it's zipping back and forth, pulling drag. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I got a monster on here. Now, this wasn't the first time I caught a shark. I caught a shark, plenty of sharks with my dad, but I was a kid. So, I can't really compare that. So this thing was zipping all over the place. I'm telling my cousin, I was like, man, I hope you got a gaff and all this stuff. And I brought him up, and he was about 3 foot long. You got to be kidding me, man. Like, this thing was squealing the drag, like burning it up. And I was just like, man, I wish that saltwater fishing, offshore fishing, wasn't so expensive. The fuel's expensive, the bait is expensive, the gear is expensive. And anybody who thinks catfishing gear or bass fishing gear is expensive, just like add 200% to that. And that's what saltwater fishing is. Not 100%, 200%. Everything is more expensive. The boats are, the fuel is, well, the fuel's probably the same, but anyway, Mike, if you ever get the experience to fight a shark, have you ever fought a shark?
No,
Oh man, if
I've
you ever get an experience, man, it's definitely something that you should take advantage of.
I know it will be in my future somewhere along the
Mhm.
lines. Lauren definitely wants to fish in the
Well,
ocean.
we'll
So
look forward to a video this summer. My dad's already said, he said, man, we'll take that pontoon out and go shark fishing. I was like, let's do it. So we're gonna take the catfish gear out there. We'll take the old blue cat rod and see what she's got.
there you go.
All
That'd
right,
be
now
that'd
we
be
can
my first
transition.
pick. That'd be my first pick of rod to take with. Well, just me knowing what rod you have. I'm sure
Yep,
there's
yep.
rods you have that I don't know.
No, that's every rod I got. That the blue cat rod would probably be my heaviest one that I got.
Yeah, I was looking around. I got some rods this week and
You
was
did?
looking around and was trying to decide what's next. And it was interesting that you asked that question in our pregame warm up. You
Shark
asked
Biscuit with
what my favorite rods were, my favorite rod and my favorite reels, and I actually have what I feel is a pretty interesting answer to that,
okay.
and that is that my favorite rod cannot utilize my favorite reel
Hmm.
because my favorite rod is probably that whisker seeker catfish and carp, and it
Mm,
is a medium light 7-foot rod, and it just isn't balanced right if you put a gigantic reel on it. And last year, I really grew fond of the 6,000 size reels. Well, for those
mm.
rods, I think you probably need to keep it like 4,000 or less. And
Max, yeah.
4,000 is a bit of overkill. So, probably 3,000 or less, or 2,000 or 1,000 size, but
Mhm.
it's so there's my the first part of my answer. The second part of my answer is that I definitely have 3 favorite rods from the last year, and then I have probably 3 more that are like a second, a very, very close
Well,
second
let's
group,
go back and forth. Let's go
but
back and forth. So right now, I said, Mike, let's go catfishing on the boat or on the bank. You choose. You can only take one rod. Where we're going, you can only use one rod and one reel per person. Which one are you going to select first?
well, I'm still gonna take that. We'll go on your boat,
Hmm.
and I am still going to take the catfish and carp rods
And then what
because,
reel to go with it? Just one
uh
rod, one reel. I know. I'm making you choose, man.
I would put a an Akuma Avenger
Mm,
40 on it, and it's a bait
okay.
runner just because I'm so used to using the bait runners,
Hmm.
and I love that drag pinging all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, that being said, it's I still don't know how much lead we have to throw. I don't know how much lead you usually have
Well,
to
that
throw
that
now,
wasn't in it. That was just
but
this is a just a quick draw scenario. So me
uh,
to answer that question right now, I'm really digging the Whisker Seeker Chad Ferguson model. The what do they call it? The Full Metal Jacket, 7 foot
yep,
6, one piece rod. I'm really digging that right now.
the
Um,
medium heavy.
the medium heavy, and
They
I
they
got
do
the
make that in a heavy,
yeah.
should you ever want or need. They make a 7'6"
Oh,
casting in a
I
heavy.
want. I always want. You don't have to ask me that. I
That's why
always
I said
want.
need.
Yeah. Need is another thing. But
Yep.
right now I have a PC Fun Chaos 50 on it. And I get comments probably once a week. What do you think of the PC Fun Chaos 50? What do you think of the PC Fun Chaos 60? And Mike, you know me. I've had these things for a little over a year now.
Yeah.
I haven't had any problems with them. None at
I've
all.
never I've never heard of you opening them up.
Never.
So that
I've
that
not
tells
I've
me
not
you haven't
opened them
had the
up.
need.
I haven't done any maintenance on them. Haven't done anything on it. And I'm not going to until they break down because
That's right.
I want to make sure that they get a good test. So I got that PC Fun 50 uh, discount code CAT18 at PCFun.com if you want to get one. Shameless plug there. But and it's not even because I got a discount code to it, an affiliate code. It's because they work. And you
Yeah.
can watch any of my videos. They cast and reel like a Cadillac. Now, I do wish they were a different color. I wish you had color options. We've discussed that. That's the one thing I don't like about them. All right, now, Mike, they just changed the rules. They just changed the rules. I just got a phone call from the commissioner of fishing USA, and he said, "No, you know what? I'm gonna allow you two rod and reels. So you go back in the garage or in the vault, and you grab what?
Well,
You already know, man. Come on, you already know.
well, the
Y'all, the look on his face, it
the
can only
the
be described by the word constipation.
the
He's thinking so hard.
the next rod that I grab,
Mm,
it's probably because I haven't caught a fish on it yet.
okay.
And everybody probably has been in this situation where you buy a rod and then next thing you know, all your water freezes and you
Mhm.
can't you can't fish with that rod. Or maybe you live in a fantastic area where your water doesn't freeze and you don't feel my pain, but you
Mhm.
can see the pain on my face right now. You can hear the pain in my voice.
All right, what rod is it? What rod is it?
It is a medium heavy action, uh, big cat fever. Yep.
Whiskers and Stripes called it.
Whiskers and stripes, man. Are you reading my notes? You reading my notes right here? You reading my
What
notes? You're
one of our
right.
Boom Squad members typed in right before he said that big cat feeder, maybe medium heavy.
On
All
that,
right.
since it is big enough, I would match it with a 6,000 size PC Fun Carnivore X. And that's
Pro,
because
promo code CAT18.
I like the balance. You can find that at PCFun.com. Use promo code CAT18. My dad just did that
Hmm.
a week or so ago. And he didn't know whose code he was using or what, but he just loved that it pushed that price down for him. He
Whiskers
bought
and
two.
Stripes wasn't reading your mind. He said that's his
Oh,
favorite rod.
oh, well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for the vote of confidence there. But we thought that you had become a real deal fishing podcast whisperer. that you just knew it. So,
So
but
yeah,
yeah,
if those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I do have a promo code that lasts forever. It's cat18, only on the PC Fun website, and that saves you 18% on anything and as much as you want to order on there. You can order 9 reels, and the code will still work, or you can order 1 reel, and it'll still work. So, and that is another way you can support the Real Deal Fishing Podcast. I get a small commission on those, but I'm telling you, there's only now, Mike, just full transparency, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm promoting it because I get a cut. There's a couple reels there's one reel in particular I would caution you not to get, and that's the Alloy M, the spinning reel. It's really expensive. It's sealed. It's called it's said they say it's made for salt water. They sent me one of them to try. Well, let me rephrase. The Alloy M 5000 or 6000, the big ones. I'm telling you, it's just not smooth. I didn't enjoy fishing with it. I sent a message to PC Fun. I said, "Hey, y'all got this one wrong. You need to redo it." And they actually told me straight up. They said, "Yeah, we've been getting a lot of complaints. We took it off the market and sent it back to the drawing board, and we should be coming out with a second edition." So they
yeah.
haven't sent me the second edition, but just to let you know, I would never endorse anything that I didn't believe in. And Mike doesn't make any money on them, and he just
I
endorsed one.
I broke one. I
Uh-oh.
broke one of
Yeah.
those.
Oh, the
Yeah.
the the ones I was talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. And it
Yep.
wasn't even yours, was it?
Yeah. They sent it to one of our friends, and he said he wasn't going to be able to fish with it for a couple weeks, so he sent it to me. I fished with it 3 times, broke some of the innards of that
Mhm.
item, and hey, but that's why you test stuff,
That's right.
so that's all part of it. And they have a fantastic customer service team
Yep.
that's taking care of them and looking out for anybody too. And that being said, I have, let's see, four or five of their other reels.
Yeah.
They're as smooth as butter,
Mhm.
and
Even the cheap one,
I wouldn't give them away. I keep, yeah, the cheap one, the flame. It's
the flame.
amazing.
I have the blue flame, and it's. I mean, it's hard for me to compare anything to my pen spinning reels. I love my pen spinning reels,
Yeah,
but I mean it for the price, $25 or less with
yeah.
the code.
And you
You
get a
can't get a better
5,000
spinning
size
reel.
reel.
You can't get
Yeah.
a better spinning reel than that.
I
So, all
hauled in a 40-pound turtle with that reel.
right.
That reel put the boots to that turtle, man.
So since the commissioner changed the rules and I get another rod and reel to
Yep, you
take,
get another one.
um,
Steve changed
I'm
the
going.
rules.
So I got my the Catfish Council had changed the rule. I got my whisker seeker out there, which is going to be my fun rod. Anything I catch on that rod is going to be fun and have a lot of action. But in case I get the monster, I need to put a monster donkey bait out there. I'm going to
Oh,
bring that blue cat rod with me. I'm gonna bring that blue cat, and I'm gonna put a donkey bait on it, and I know that I can cast 10 ounces of lead with that thing, and not have to worry about it. And I'll even go away from PC Fun. Um, I do have both my Blue Cat rods have the PC Fun Chaos 60 on them. But if I had to change it out, let's say that I just wanted something different. I have Abu Garcia Catfish Special. Hard to beat. Hard to beat it. It's a good one. It's an awesome reel. I also have the carp special and the striper special. Same reel, by the way, just different color. But that would be my second rod and reel of choice. And anybody who's done catfishing or knows Abu, now the real Abu, like the Swiss made Abu, they'll tell you, that's it's going to be a hard one to beat. Hey, Mike, I just got a telegram, and they said finally the laws have updated to 2021, and you get one more. This is it. This is the final one, though. You get one more rod and reel to take with you. What you going to take?
well, I just got it this week and I'm itching to use it. So I am definitely going to take an Uncle Lou's medium
Ooh,
light.
medium light.
It is a bullwhip.
Nice.
This thing, this thing has got more moves than I do.
Well, I don't know if that's saying much, Mike.
It's it's not, but there's something that's just so gorgeous about a rod that's still in that clear plastic. You
Mm.
haven't even taken it out of the package yet. I'm just sitting here staring at it, and so again, it's a situational thing. It's not just about the rod. It's just not about the specs. But it says it can throw up to 6 ounces. That's good enough for me. And or maybe it's 8. I can't remember. Sixes look like eights, and the plastic reflects all the light and everything. So I could be wrong, but it's uh it's a gorgeous item. Now, should any of my equipment fail, I always keep a fourth rod in my truck
Nope, nope,
just in
nope, nope,
case.
nope, nope. What's the reel you're gonna put on that Uncle Lou? Now, for
Well,
context, if you haven't listened to the show before, Mike is a strictly spinning reel guy. So is this Uncle Lou's
yeah.
rod a spinning reel? Spinning?
Actually, it's not. This
Mm.
is a casting rod.
All right. So now you're gonna get something different. What does
Yep.
Mike select when he throws a bait caster?
The only bait casting reel that I have found that doesn't hate me is a Lose Speedmaster. What is that? I think it's like
I don't know.
it's the black and gold Lose round reel. Lose only makes 2 round reels,
Hmm.
one's
The
silver
laser.
and one's black. So this is
Mm.
not the laser, this is the Speedmaster.
Mm.
And Mexicat touched it, so that definitely helped. He was adjusting some brakes or something and this and that.
Tension knobs.
Yep. There's knobs. There's some big star looking thing on the side. I don't know. These rods are different. Or these reels are different. But yeah, that would be what I will match with this. And at the very least, Kevin, you get to see me bird's nested at least
I can't
every
wait.
third cast. So there's some entertainment value for you.
No, I got a
What's
lot of
yours?
rods to choose from, but I'll say the rod and reel combo that has treated me the best over the past couple months has been my white big cat fever, medium heavy, 7'6". It's really equivalent to that whisker seeker rod. I think the whisker seeker rod has a little bit more play in it, a little bit more wobble, but the big cat fever is really close to a little bit heavier. And then I'm gonna put Old Red on there. Old Red number two. If you don't know what Old Red number two is, Mike has sent me several reels over the past couple years. Just because he's a upstanding dude and he doesn't like casting reels, as he said.
They don't like me.
And they just sit there and collect dust. So he's like, somebody's got to use them.
I keep
But
buying them. They don't like me.
he sent me an Abu Garcia. I think it was like a 5600 or something like that. No drag, no clicker. I mean, no drag, no clicker. Kind of a small reel a couple years ago, and I loved it. I caught plenty of nice fish on there. I think the biggest one was like 33 pounds. Um, awesome reel. Doesn't have a clicker on it. I put a power hand on it. Still works great. And then this summer he sends me another one, and when it got to me, I sent it off to get fixed, to get lubed up and all that stuff, and made sure everything was right. And it finally came back in time for fall catfishing, and it's an even older Abu Garcia, but I think this was a 6,000.
Yeah.
But it's got a power handle on it, and it's beautiful. The spool is red, and so is the reel. It's got a nice clicker on it. Looks like it had never been used. But anyway, that combo, I've caught several nice fish on that, and
I
it
can
just feels
guarantee you that it was bird nested several times,
good.
not actually used.
Well, the drag on it isn't that great. but it's an older reel.
Mhm.
It's around the time uh, where backward reeling was popular instead of drag. So it's probably one of the first drag systems Abu Garcia started using. I'm guessing there. Don't burn my house down. But yeah, so there you go. So you got three awesome rod and reel combinations right there. We talked about what fishing means and how we take advantage of it sometimes, and uh, how people on the outside of the fishing world kind of see it. Talking about handing down stories and techniques, and we talked about how fish fight. I think that was a good show, Mike.
I
What do you think?
I always quote the movie Friday Night Lights, and I say, "My heart is full." I feel I feel we've really gone around a good handful of topics here, and we had some fun.
Yeah, man.
We once again put each other on the spot a little bit, and, that's good. It's good to challenge each other and to try to help each other, grow and
Hmm.
in all this, but yet still, take those moments to talk about what it really means.
Hmm. Yep. Definitely some good conversation. Well, that being said, y'all, we're coming to the end of our uh, podcast today. I want to thank the Boom Squad for jumping in, Mike Turner and Whiskers and Stripes, and Chris, who's a new Boom Squad member. Thanks, Chris, and uh, and Tony Harrison. Thank you all for joining us as we record this live. Again, if you're interested in coming in and chat, those guys have been in there chatting with each other for the past 20 minutes and just having a good time tonight. So if you're interested in that, come on over to Palmetto Cat's YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and hit that join button to join the Boom Squad and be a member of the channel. That being said, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to say a prayer and we'll get out of here. Lord, we just thank you for another awesome night. We thank you for giving us this opportunity to record and talk about fishing and really get deep into the conversations, um, and enjoy the gift of fishing and camaraderie and family that you've given us. We thank you for all the listeners out there. We thank you for the Boom Squad members. And Lord, I thank you for Mike and his family. And we just thank you for all your blessings. Give you all the glory in it. We just praise you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all. Until next time, this is Kevin and Mike saying, happy fishing.